Culture is big business. Culture is big business. That is next. And so I wanted to introduce our next panelists that are coming up. First person is Pinky Cole. Pinky Cole. Yeah, and those of you who are local definitely know who Pinky is. And Pinky is the owner of the Slutty Vegan restaurant chain and Bar Vegan in Atlanta. She's also an author of the cookbook, Eat Plants, B blank TCH. You can figure out what that is. As well as a memoir, I Hope You Fail. She's a community activist and philanthropist, head of the Pinky Cole Foundation, which is focused on uplifting marginalized communities. She's also a culinary disruptor, known for transforming the image of plant-based fast food. She's also nationally recognized, featured on the Time 100 Next list, as well as Forbes Next 1000, as well as a number of other notable lists. Next, we have Melissa Proctor. She's the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for the Atlanta Hawks, as well as the State Farm Arena. She oversees marketing, creative, Hawks studios, live experience, merchandising, community impact, and different basketball programs. She's the author of From Ball Girl to CMO. She's the recipient of Adweek's CMO Award in 2021 and the AMY Lifetime Achievement Award in 2022. She's served on numerous boards of the High Museum of Art, as well as she has her degree, from Wake Forest University and Central St. Martin's College of Art and Design. Here's our next panel. Here we go.
Oh, they are? Come on, y'all. I'm gonna find them. I'm gonna text the Kimberly.
All right. So, I'm excited. I'm excited too. Hey, y'all.
Me too.
I'm excited. And PMM folks, if we have folks that are still working their way back in, Deontay, let's get them in here, please. This discussion, again, you've had two back-to-back good ones, but I promise you, this one right here is going to take you on another ride. And what I do know about both of these women is that they are going to want questions. So I may do something a little bit differently and open up a little bit sooner or earlier for questions. And so we've taken this leadership conversation into a whole different way of looking at it. You've seen the different types of leaders in different industries and sectors. And these last two, I mean, if you notice, there are only two panelists and not three, was because they both could equally be their own fireside. But we paired them together in what I know and will definitely continue around leadership, but we also wanted to look at it by way of culture. And I'm not talking about like workplace culture. I'm talking about the culture and understanding how culture is big business. And so a lot of times, my agency is called to work with major corporations, and I go in the door of marketing. And for 25 years now, I've been explaining to them the value and understanding of consumers and culture. And so one of the things we take pride in is how we show up a little bit differently in partnering with, culture, young people, et cetera, but always understanding that there's a business value proposition in doing so. And these two women are doing it and doing it in a big way as the chief marketing officer for the Atlanta Hawks, as well as State Farm Arena. So if you're from Atlanta and you go to concerts and you sitting up in there and doing X, Y, Z, that woman on the end is the chief marketing and brand officer in running both of those operations. It's a very big job. And we'll talk about it because, I'm proud of her. She knows.
Appreciate you.
And we'll talk about it. She has a book too, and y'all know I'm very much into reading. And her book is From the Ball Girl to the CMO. And so she started as a ball girl. You go to the games, you see folks, ball, girls and boys running around, to now being able to sit in the front office and lead the organization is a story and a testimony in itself. Now, my next friend is doing things in so many different ways, just a constant disruptor. If you all saw last year, the Forbes Top 50, Power 50 list was unveiled, and she was included. You know and heard, how many of you have heard of Slutty Vegan? Okay. 1 million people we know have, because she has an audience of 1 million followers that hear not just about Slutty Vegan, but we'll also talk about how leadership shows up in different ways for her. I told you all when we started today, all of these people sit with me in leadership circles, but more importantly, as Justin mentioned, Alencia _ as did our mayor, I find them to be great friends and sisters. And so with that, ladies, I want to get into it. Now, I will say that Google has invited you all here today for real talk. Real talk.
How real?
Now I was about to say.
There's only one way.
Real.
I ain't worried about you on
There's
real
only
talk.
one way.
We are at Google.
Okay.
But what I will say is, no, these are real talk, real connections, and real actions.
Yes.
So I also want to make sure that we are imparting anecdotal lessons and learnings to our, hills and valleys, and how we all continue in our evolution as leaders. So I want to kind of, and we'll popcorn it in the sense of, how I'll go back and forth on some things. And I got a lot of places I want to go with you too. Because I don't want to keep it all too great. I also want to get into the real and how we navigate some of the challenges as women, as leaders, as just everything, right? Yeah. You all are also mothers, and so you're navigating things in the sense of balance and shifts. But let's start with how I've started with everyone, in the sense of first impressions of leadership. Like, where and who, what are your earliest memories of, like, I saw this person and I thought, bomb leader, or I want to grow up and be like him and or her because I see the impact that they are changing lives from and their superpowers. So I'll start with you, Melissa.
That's a great question. I mean, when I initially think, when you asked the question, I went straight to my mother. Because my mom was the only person that led everything in my world for a very long time, but she was also super dynamic. Born and raised in Belize, went to nursing school in England, and moved to the States, didn't know anybody, kind of created a life for herself. But the thing that I got most from her is she was like, always ask the question, whatever it is, if there's something you want, said nothing beats a try but a failure, always ask. The worst they're gonna say is no. And this was haggling at the swap shop. This was going to the stores, this work, whatever it is.
Are you from Florida?
I'm born and raised in Miami.
Okay, yeah, that's what I remember.
305, word
Yeah.
But I've been in Atlanta a long time. My mom is from Belize, my dad is from Jamaica. But in terms of leadership, when I saw her do a lot of things that she did, I didn't know at the time, but it has shaped me so much in the way that I move, even now as a leader, and really being compassionate for others. She was a nurse. It was always around servant leadership. How can I help? What can I do? And I think that instilled a lot in me, and then I've seen it in other good leaders as I've gone up the corporate ladder. But at the very beginnings had to be my mom.
Yeah.
Ooh, so I got two.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I grew up in a household with my grandmother because my mother worked
Baltimore,
all
right?
day, every day. Yes, so we Jamaican too, so we Caribbean. So my first experience of, I want to be like that when I grew up, guess who it was, y'all? Oprah. Oprah used to come on, I think it was 4 o'clock
4
every
o'clock.
day. Yes.
Yep, Oprah too.
And Grandma, we watching Days of Our Lives. Y'all ain't old enough for that. But we watching Days of Our Lives,
General
Oprah,
Hospital.
General Hospital, Golden Girls. We watching all of that. And Oprah used to come on at 4 o'clock every day. And when I was sitting here and when you was talking, I'm like, my first sign of leadership obviously was my mother. But when I saw this woman on TV, not only did black people love her, white people loved her too. So she was able to create a universal brand that had nothing to do with color. And how many people like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to be able to help people. I want everybody to be able to love me no matter who I am, what I look like, and people just have a good experience around me. So anybody that knows me knows how much, like if I see Oprah, I'm going to pass out, right? But it's because...
Wait, have y'all not met yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
And if you know,
all right,
call her and tell her to call me.
okay. That's good to know.
But what she did for me was she set the standard of what I wanted to be when I grow up, right? So it's funny now, full circle moment, people joking, be like, oh yeah, you the new age Oprah. And we laugh about it, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm the little girl watching Oprah, like, wow, my wildest dreams is coming true, even though I still have not met her. Yeah.
And you do have talk show, you have a lot of similarities and capabilities, so.
And that's an honor to even hear people say that.
Yeah,
you know what
you
I'm
do,
saying?
you do.
Vicky Cole show coming.
Yeah, you have an it factor. Yes. Okay, so, but let's go in the standpoint of, you mentioned your beginnings. Okay, so 305, Be More. I also know that for you, Pinky, you've had a journey, as you, Melissa, but you've had a journey that have actually been some twists and turns in how you now landed with Slutty Vegan. Why don't you share with our audience? And I will remind you, if I didn't tell you, that we have folks in the room who are here, but we also have folks who are streaming. Thank you all for tuning in. What was that?
So my success has been like a roller coaster. How many people have been to Six Flags before? Okay, half of us. So you ever been on a roller coaster where the roller coaster goes up and it's so much like anxiety with the roller coaster going up and you're scared, you don't know what to expect, but you know it's gonna be big and it's gonna be a big drop and it's just gonna be some suspense. So in my professional career, I've experienced the suspense, the anxiety, going all the way to the top. But I've also experienced the drop. And I've also experienced the drop that leads to momentum that goes back up, and the ebbs and flows. And the reason why I give you the analogy of a roller coaster, because that really is, transparently speaking, and you know this, what my career has been. And I'm not ashamed of it, because that's the only way you get to grow as an entrepreneur and be better. You gotta go through some stuff.
Yes.
Right? I wanna be around some people that got experience, and in that moment, it has not always felt good. But the reality of it is when I look back, I can become somebody's testimony, right? I can speak to somebody and say, you know what? I've been there. I know what it feels like to be flat broke. I know what it feels like to lose everything. I know what it feels like to be laughed at, but I also know what it feels like to eat from a glass plate and to have it all. So now
how about you
range.
know what it feels like to be in your 30s and having raised tens of millions of dollars to have restaurants across the country, to be on the Forbes most powerful 50 list, to be an Ebony one. How about that before the age of 40? Like, that's why I say too, it's important that we underscore wherever you are in your cycle of leadership. What she said, there will be hills and there will be valleys.
Yes.
And how you respond to those adverse moments is what determines you and how you rebound as a leader.
Because the reality, it's not about the stuff, right?
That's right.
Like you can get titles all day. I've made the Times 100 list, Forbes 1000, Forbes 50 cover, Inc. magazine cover. I've done all of those things. But those things weren't the things that define me. It's how I've been able to rise above the challenges, which is why I lead with that.
Well,
right?
you know what? And I want to say something too there, because I think that's important. Dom Thompson, former CEO of McDonald's, he's an ELC member, and he was speaking amongst us one evening, and he said to a group of students included that he was on covers of magazines as the best CEO in the country, and then moved to covers of magazines where he was the worst CEO. And I say that too in understanding that we talked in a prior session about, stopping and smelling the roses in those moments. But I also want to tell folks too, and I didn't say it because I'm trying to let the panelists, but I also want to say be careful of reading your own press. Because a lot of people get caught up in the hype of the moment of the
Yes.
press
Yes.
and don't understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint.
Yes.
And there's going to be another bump that may come.
Yes, that's real. That's totally real. What you think about that?
I mean, it's the same in corporate. And I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, people define themselves by their title,
Yeah.
what they have. So they're like, people say, Melissa, how does it feel to be CMO of the Hawks now that you made it? I was like, made it? What does that even mean? Well, ultimately, I know that I'm warm in a seat. Because at any moment, I've been laid off. I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter when I was laid off from Turner. I know at any moment, the CEO, owner can come into the room and say, Melissa, we appreciate all that you've given us. Thank you so much. It's time for us to move on.
So stay there for a minute, because it's real, because we're sitting in a global corporation.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord that has not happened, right? But
But
how
it
do
had
you
happened
prepare
previously.
How do you prepare yourself? And to your point, you said it has happened.
Yeah.
How do you navigate those moments of unforeseen and disappointment? And what was it that, gave you that kind of resilience and understanding, oh, I ain't done?
Oh, 100%. I mean, some of that is just innate, having confidence, going through different experiences and ebbs and flows, and know that God got my back, I'm going to be okay.
Are either of you athletes?
In
Yes.
my mind.
Okay, in your mind. Okay, yes. Okay, I just only asked that too
I
because
run burgers.
What you say? You
I
what?
run burgers.
You
Those
run
are the plays that I run.
Okay, I didn't know because sometimes those things come in that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but I would say for me, it was one understanding from a business standpoint. In every corporation, there is so much happening in the corporate world right now. When I got laid off the first time, I was a senior leader, worked directly with my boss. The last business started was the first one cut. And within Turner, we had launched a brand new digital business. They were preparing to sell. We had no idea. So myself and our entire team got laid off. And I had to lay off the people who reported to me. I understood it from a business standpoint. It wasn't personal. So many people took it personally because they made their job their life. There was no separation between that. And it was a great lesson for me because it was understanding I'm here to make a living, I'm here to make an impact, but this job cannot define who I am. It never has. I tell everybody, I could be a greeter at Walmart tomorrow, I'm gonna be the same Melissa, giving the same energy to everything that I do. And so going through that experience and understanding it, now coming over to the Hawks from day one, there's a false sense of security in corporate America. And when you're in a job and you're in a company for a long time, there are a lot of people who've been lifers at certain companies. It feels super safe. But that was the wake-up call for me. I'd been at Turner 11 years, had 9 different jobs, went from trainee, intern, up to vice president of marketing and content. HR would use me to go recruit people. And in 1 minute, it was like, hey, thank you, no thank you. So now I am mentally prepared for that at any point. But what I learned is when I got laid off, I had a little bit of severance. I'd been there a long time. I was pregnant when I had my child. Ended up going to a draft party with a friend of mine just as a fan. Ran into a guy who was my mentor at Turner, who was Steve Koonin, who had left after I left to become
Great
CEO of
dude.
the Hawks. Didn't know he was going to be there, didn't talk to him. He's like, hey, so good to see you. Want to introduce you to some people. Walks me around the party, introduced me to every C-level executive for the Atlanta Hawks. This was just relationship building, someone that I knew who knew that I had a passion for branding and basketball. After walking around, they were all like, oh, it's so great to meet you finally. I can't wait for you to start. I was like, start what? I don't even know what y'all talking about. He knew, because he saw me as a ball girl for the Atlanta Hawks when I first moved to Atlanta, 2002, right out of college, mopping up sweat. Saw me in boardrooms helping work on brand strategy projects. He said, I know you have a passion for basketball and a passion for branding. Can you help me? We're designing a uniform. There's no diversity on the team that's building it. I'd love for you just to sit in on some meetings. Me and my mom serve a leader. I'm like, heck yeah. I was a designer, artist. I do that for free. Sat in on meetings. One meeting became 5, became 6. Hey, would you like to consult? Cool, I got nothing but time. I'm laid off. I got a kid at home trying to get away from my mother-in-law at the time. So I said, all right, got started consulting. That happened in July. By September of that year, I came on board as a vice president of brand strategy for the Atlanta Hawks. Never in a million years did I see that coming when I worked at Turner, and I wouldn't have left because I was comfortable.
What was your relationship? Steve Koonin, great guy. What was your relationship with Steve then? Like, you know what I mean?
He was like a distant mentor. I never reported to
Yeah.
him. A lot of people thought that
Yeah.
I'd worked for him. I hadn't. It was my reputation within the company based on the work that I did. And over time, every year I'm an artist. I would draw holiday cards, greeting cards, and I would send them to friends, colleagues, and he kept all the cards that I had artwork on from the time I was a trainee.
Wow.
And so for him, I just thought it was a touch point. But what I realized, it was building relationship in a different way with him. And so I was trustworthy. And he knew that. And what I later learned is when he left Turner, he had a no poaching policy. He couldn't take any talent from Turner. when I took that last job that I had, he was one of the mentors that told me, it's digital. Turner doesn't really do well at launching digital products. You probably don't want to take that job. I took it because I wanted to learn. And so thank God I took it because I got laid off. Because had I not gotten laid off, I wouldn't be where I am.
Wow.
So it's really just a testament. Everything happens for a reason. But just because one door closes, you can't really dwell on that door. You got to keep moving.
Yeah. Pinky, don't even do that because y'all going to be clapping. Well, look at here. Look who's, hi, Nelson.
What up?
Okay. All right, so we are season ticket holders. And, but you here though, right? Do you see it? Yeah, he work at Google. Okay, good.
It's my Leadership Atlanta classmate, too.
Exactly, that's what I thought. Okay, so Leadership Atlanta, so we can talk about that too. All right, next. All right, back to you. I want you to also kind of go into how you eventually got to Slutty Vegan, because I think it's important that they understand that Slutty Vegan didn't just happen. You know, you got there through a different course. And how you landed there.
Alignment. So let me take y'all all the way back. Y'all ever watched the Maury Show before? I was a producer for that show. Yes, you are the father. So I worked at the Maury Show. I graduated. I went to CAU. I was Miss Clark Atlanta University, head of Delta Sigma Theta, vice president, all that stuff. Yes, DP, crazy.
Y'all gonna, the AKs, are we in here? Because
no,
I'm really,
y'all not
okay,
here.
there we are. All right, okay.
We here. The Deltas, we here. So anyway, so I graduated from CAU, and I went to Teach for America. When I graduated, it was in the heart of the recession. So I could not find a job. And my mother was just like, yeah, you need to take this. Here I am. I'm the most popular girl on campus. This is way before Slutty Vegan, way before anything. And she like, you need a job, you need to take it. So I took a job working
Wait, tell them where you went to school.
I went to Clark Atlanta University.
Okay.
Yeah. So after that, I went to Houston to work for Teach for America to teach 8th grade English. Mind you, I barely graduated, y'all, but I did it. God is good, right? Okay. So I went to Houston. I was there for 5 days, me and my dog, Rudy. And on the 5th day, God just hit something in my spirit and said, this ain't for you. And you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the other people that you're going to be teaching if you keep this job. So something in me where I flat broke. Okay, didn't have no money. And one of my friends at the time who was there, he lent me $40 so that I could go home and get to the airport. So I went to the airport, and I never forget it. I told this story before. I was a commencement speaker 13 years later at CAU. And the Southwest employee, he said, what's wrong with you? I'm bawling, crying. And mind you, I'm Jamaican. We prideful, okay? So, like, we don't ask nobody for nothing. It hurts to do that. So I was sitting in the airport, and he said, I'll be right back. This man came back, y'all, and he gave me $240. And it was enough for me to get myself home and my dog Rudy home. And at that point, I said, I will never, ever in my life do nothing that does not make my belly leap. From that point on, I packed up my bags, a duffel bag, a suitcase, and a Bible. And I moved to LA. I said I wanted to be an actress. I don't know where that came from, but it is what it is, right? So I moved to LA, and I said that I wanted to be an actress, started doing background work. Long story short, I got an opportunity to work as a production assistant in TV. One of my sorority sisters, she's like, Pinky, you need some money, I'm gonna give you a job. Now, if I don't know how to do nothing else, I know how to run my mouth, right? So working in TV, I'm like, okay, I could do this, cool. Mind you, I'm the pageant girl, competed in the Miss America system, did all of that, right? And then I ended up behind the scenes, and I'm like, God, this don't make sense. I wanted to be in front of the camera, but you put me behind the scenes, so there's something bigger here for me, and I don't quite understand it yet, but I'm gonna go with the flow. Fast forward, they called me. I worked on a couple of shows. The Maury Show called me like, hey, we heard that you the best, and we want to be aligned with the best. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm coming. I went to Maury, and while I was there, I saved up my 401k. And I opened up my first restaurant. It was called Pinky's Jamaican and American Restaurant. And I didn't know nothing. Mind you, I'm vegan at the time, selling jerk chicken and oxtails. Okay? I'm like, yeah, it's good. Get it. And I opened up this restaurant and had a line down the block. So when I think full circle moment with Slutty Vegan and the momentum, it ain't just about the food. It ain't on you. It's in you. No. You understand what I'm saying? And when you got it in you, then there's nothing that you can't do. So I had that restaurant lying down a block every single day, but I was not in alignment because here I am, I was vegan, selling non-vegan food, so it wasn't aligned with the spirit, all right? So I had a grease fire and lost everything. I'm talking about, I'm having a deja vu moment too, by the way, now that I'm saying this story out loud. So I lost everything, went flat broke, lost my car, got evicted, was in a bad relationship at the time, and God picked me up like this and took me up out of that situation in a blink. I got a call to work on a show called Iyanla Fix My Life. Y'all remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
And how ironic is it that I'm helping people with their healing, and I'm getting free therapy, and I'm getting paid to do this? And I said, this ain't nothing but God. So I was there for 2 years, and then they asked me to come back to Atlanta to work on the show because the guests just wanted to talk to me. And while I was in Atlanta, I was in my 2-bedroom apartment, and Slutty Vegan was born. But let me tell you about alignment, y'all. I've been vegan. I'm the person that want to share with my friend vegan food, right? And this was only supposed to be just a side hustle. But God will provide your wildest desires when you don't even think about it. And I needed what I went through, like you said, Melissa, what I went through prepared me for the grace that is Slutty Vegan. Now, I'm going to sit here and I'll be honest with you. It ain't always easy. I'm going through probably one of the hardest seasons of my life. But by the grace of God, he already prepared me in 2014 to 2016 when I had the restaurant that caught on fire. So even in the fire, I'm like, been there, done that. Already did that. So now I know how to navigate. So I'm telling you, as entrepreneurs, as people that work in Google and in corporate America, whatever it is that is happening with you right now, it's happening for you. It is your story. And that story is already written. And you'll be able to share that story one day with somebody else. And they're going to say, you know what? I can keep going because Ashley did it. I can keep going because Pinky did it, because Melissa did it, because Kim did it. And because their story, I can rise again above all circumstances.
Come on.
Yeah.
So, and y'all gonna thank me for this at the end because I got a couple of little surprises in the sense of how we engage you all. I want to go back into our macro topic and culture being big business. I've told you, and you know, I'm a big sports enthusiast, period, but I'm a Hawk season ticket holder for over a decade.
We see you at all the games too, Kim.
Front row.
Okay. So with that, the experience from when I started with the Hawks and my experience now with the Hawks is different. I see your intentionality around the culture. Can you talk about that journey and how bold leadership, vision, you come to a Hawks game, you can watch the game and be entertained by the product on the court, but you can also be entertained by the product off the court as well.
It's a party.
So it is. And the experience, and I'm big on experiential as a marketer and, you know, in the sense of technical practitioner, but that consumer experience, whether you like the game or not, you're going to have a good time. Talk about it.
You know, it's super intentional. We always say, I'm friends with a lot of different CMOs around the league, and they don't have the same benefit that I have of being in one of the most amazing cities in the world. And when I tell people, I'm like, the biggest export out of Atlanta is our culture. And so the fact that that is what we get to work with on a regular basis, even Pinky, Slutty Vegan, if you tapped into the culture, the things we partnered with when she was just opening up Slutty Vegan, and she's like, I don't know nothing about basketball, bring them players over here. Okay, cool. And part of because it's being in tune with what is happening, what is now, what is first. And so when I first started with the Hawks, 2 weeks after I got signed on board, BP, we had a major racial crisis in different ownership and went through an entire change where we had civil rights leaders knocking on our door trying to get an answer as to what the Hawks are doing for the city. And it was not what I knew that I was walking into. Steve apologized to me. He's like, I had no idea this was an organization. But in that moment, we had to take ownership and turn it around.
That's right.
So we were the very first NBA team to hire a chief diversity and inclusion officer. We were the first team to create those basketball courts all over the city. If you're in Atlanta, you'll see, because we made a commitment to the community at that time, which hadn't happened previously. And that was the beginning of it. But one of the things that came out of it was our new tagline, which was true to Atlanta. And it was truth in basketball is where it started. We were like, we got to be authentic. We got to let this city know that we mean what we say, and we're going to stand behind it, and not just in one way, but in every way. And so coming up with that line and then being able to, how do we pay that off from our game experience, from coming into our building? When we redid Phillips Arena to State Farm Arena, it was, we want this building to be the most true to Atlanta building you can have anywhere. JR Crickets, the swag shop with Killer Mike's Barbershop in the building. We had Old Lady Gang in there, now it's a Chick-fil-A. Like, we couldn't put this building in any other city but Atlanta because it wouldn't make sense. But authenticity was at the core of everything we did. And so with that game experience, that was 100% it. On a regular basis, it's like, what can we do to, we call them jalapenos? What kind of jalapenos can we throw into this mix in this game to help amplify it and make it feel as true to Atlanta for people? And knowing that that evolves, because everyone's Atlanta is different. So it's really, how do we represent the breadth?
Even go to our performances, and you get a concert at the game in Atlanta.
And so much of that, we created a new division, and most other teams didn't have one, called Entertainment Industry Relations within the Atlanta Hawks. And it wasn't just about what's happening on court. It was understanding that Hollywood moved to the South. So now that we got Yollywood, there's productions happening in the city. We have an entire arena. To your point, it's basketball, but it's also the building. How do we get more use of our arena? How do we work with scouts to have films and crews and other things happening in our space? And so it was very intentional to build those relationships with music, with film, with television. And how do we utilize that within our business in multiple ways? I think we're one of the top teams with different films that are coming out wanting to promote within our game and our experience within downtown Atlanta.
And what I love too, especially, when you look courtside, you are seeing the folks, actors and entertainers and artists from Atlanta. You get the performances. Pinky has graced the, is it the Miller Coors chair? What, it's one thing to, and I don't care what seat you're in, Now, I told you, I work hard. I'm a sports enthusiast, and I arguably have one of the best seats in the house. But what I say to you is no matter what seat you're in, you get an experience at the Hawks game. And a lot of that has been carefully curated by, and I'm not saying it's just her, but by the brand and marketing team that works with the sales team and others across the organization. But I do give you a lot of credit because I was there beforehand. And I think, we need to make sure that we are recognizing leadership and what it means to change. And I love how you introduce the True to Atlanta and giving context to that, because I don't know that I put the timing of that into, because I remember having a conversation with Grant Hill, one of the owners, and him making that commitment too, that this was going to be a different organization.
And it's something that is from the top down, our ownership. It's in their DNA and their values. Yeah. And when your values are aligned with your ownership values, and any decision that I make, I know that it's a good one. And for what you talked about for the experience, when I first started, even when I was a ball girl in 2002, the usher staff were police. It was, you can't sit there, you gotta get up, you gotta do this. We went through training, we worked with Disney. It was like, no, you should take selfies of people. If they spill something, go buy it for them. Like, change it so that you're creating that experience. We got the Soul Train line if you're on the concourse when you're leaving. It's a party every day on the exit. So if you exit up top, you'll see it. And fans that are there, they've noticed the difference. Now we're on TikTok all the time and it's a part of our overall experience, but it's really, how do we be true to Atlanta?
Yeah. Okay, so Pinky, I want to keep that same vein of culture. Because you go to a Slutty Vegan, and any of you who have been there, you know that part of the Slutty Vegan experience is that you might not get in Edgewood right away, but the line itself is a party. Like, were you intentional around a lot of those things?
That experience, Melissa, you hit it on the nose. The experience gotta be better than the product. Because the product could be good and nobody will come. Like that.
In my world, I can't control my product.
Right.
So what happens on the court is true.
That experience. Because if you got a bad product, if the experience is great, you still can keep them, right? So the experience for me is not just, the food is also a part of the experience, obviously, but that's not the biggest thing. The experience is how people feel when they come into your existence. And anybody that is friends of mine, when they come into Slutty Vegan, it's a reflection of my personality. It's big, it's bright, it's loud, it's in your face, raunchy, but like cool and sophisticated at the same time. Gonna give you a little bit of everything. And when I created it, I'm like, I go into restaurants and most of the times people are just unhappy to be there. Y'all ever walk into a restaurant and they're like, what you want? What you ordering? And I'm like, I didn't want to create that. I wanted to create something that like, we are so over the top with the energy and the hospitality that it almost make you feel uncomfortable because we so good to you. Now, we don't always get it right? But most of the time, people understand that the ethos of what we create is to give people a really, really good time. So when you walk into a Slutty Vegan, you come in and we ask you where you're from. So like, hey, I'm from Baltimore. And they say, we got a slut in the building. And then everybody screams and it's a party, but it's a term of endearment. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Did y'all get nervous just then? But that is what made the brand, because the experience is so out of this world that people can't even believe that we saying that word.
Yeah.
But I've been able to redefine a word and create a positive experience around that word. And I've had so many people say, you know what, when I'm having a bad day, I go to Slutty Vegan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like going to Slutty Vegan really, like, I've had people that have brought their children, 2 people to be exact, had children that are now deceased, that told me, like, I brought my daughter here and she loved the experience and she always talked about Slutty Vegan, and I just came back because this was the place that we would
Wow.
always go. So you create memories by way of the experience,
Yes.
and money can't pay for that.
No.
And as I continue to elevate and grow in my brand, I realized that hospitality is the key. One of the reasons why Amazon still, is that a competitor? Can I say that? Okay, no. One of the reasons why Google still works so well. Because
We like that better. We like that better. Go ahead.
the hospitality, you see what I did there? The hospitality is so fantastic, right? Like, Google is the creme de la creme, and I mean that. You know what I mean? Like, it's I remember I had a friend that worked in Google, and 9th Street Google, is that the headquarters? Okay, so I went there, and like, it was so much food. It was like a buffet of food. I'm like, oh, it's free. We could just get this.
We can take you. They got that
Okay, I'm
here
going
too.
there next.
Okay.
But it was just so amazing because everybody was just genuinely happy. You could get food. There were chefs cooking, and it was just like, I'm like, this is amazing. And I wanted to create that experience. And I've never heard a Google employee say that they hated their job. Never. Now, if y'all hate your job, don't raise your hand. But I've never met somebody at Google that said that they hated their job. But I say all that to say that is also a part of the experience. When you're talking about like on TikTok and all that stuff, people gotta love where they at. So the experience is internal and external, and I work every day to really try to build that.
So
for people.
I want to stay there in the sense of, you know, you both have mentioned social media and platforms. And so to me also, by way of brand and intentionality. And, you know, Melissa, I know that, you know, you all have just stood up a podcast. Like, how is it that you all look at content as well as your platforms? Again, Pinky, you have 1 million followers, you know, and that in itself comes with an opportunity. The other thing, Pinky, for you that I think is important in this leadership conversation is that I actually think that your transparency is a part of your superpower, you know? And when you are going through those ebb and flow moments, you know, and anybody who knows me, I'm unapologetic in my faith. And I've called Pinky because I've heard her speak more about her evolution in her faith, and she doesn't try to do it in, you know, like too preachy, you know? But that's what I like in the authenticity of it. Because sometimes you don't have to be the preacher to bring people along. So I want to kind of have both of you speak to where and how you view your platforms and content by way of, you know, how you share in your visionary leadership.
Yeah, you know, I'll say for us, the very first thing we had to do was define our target audience, because to know exactly who you're speaking to, because most sports teams, we're for sports fans. Mm-hmm. And when I first got it, you can't be everything to everybody. And that's what we were trying to be. And so we defined our target audience as next generation Atlanta. I know that if I have somebody who was born and raised in New York and they come to Atlanta, they're going to be Knicks fans. There's nothing I could do to make them not Knicks fans. Really, I can try my best, but that's probably generationally within them. However, they moved to Atlanta, they probably had a kid here. I need to make sure that their child is a Hawks fan. And so we call it generational fan building. And so for us, we were like, what does that next generation need? And it's not just one demographic or another, it's across the board. And so that means there's almost a strategy we call Forever 21. We're gonna continuously be 21 years old. So that way, all right, what's the next trend? If it's Be Real, okay, we're on Be Real. If it's TikTok, if it's Snapchat, whatever it is, we need to ensure that we are consistently looking at that next gen audience and then figuring out culturally what's gonna be super relevant to them. So we launched a podcast this season because our goal and strategy, I have a 10-year-old daughter who's on YouTube all day, every day, if she could be. Mm-hmm. That is her passion. And she loves anime, and that's where she goes. But for her generation, that's where the growth was happening. So we had to figure out, how do we grow our numbers on YouTube? Podcasts were a really big success point for a lot of people, Club Shay Shays of the world and whatever else. So let's create content and interesting characters. On the sports side of the business, there's a lot of challenges right now. If you're looking for your sports team, you can't find them, don't know what network it's on. You may hear it in the news on, things going bankrupt from, sales networks and TV and cable and the changes happening there. And so we knew that we had to create this completely separate network from what we were having on TV. And so the idea of working with DC Young Fly based on who he is and his personality and being so true to Atlanta, got a Hawks tattoo on his body, which I worked there. I said, man, that's awesome. But knowing that he's a season ticket member, he sits courtside, but he is so true to Atlanta. We said, how do we take that and harness it and have him have conversations that are not just about basketball, but about culture and use it to extend our strategies to this next gen audience. And so it was very intentional.
To that point, I'm fasting this month, so I'm off social. But yesterday, people were dropping me texts from Neighborhood Talk, because clearly I was on with Boozy the other night when he showed up to the game
with no shirt
his
on.
Shirt.
Oh yes, yeah. That's on our TikTok right now.
Who was taped him for the swag, sir? That was.
Thank you, Kim.
I didn't want to credit. I'm just telling y'all inside this room. But I say that because I do think that there's two chains. Folks who are, to your point, true to Atlanta, but huge Hawks and NBA fans.
And it's so important because they are true fans. We've had a number of people who may have just had a project come out, and they're like, hey, can you put me courtside and let me do that? That's not what we do.
Right.
We have owners of our team who believe that they will buy their own tickets to sit courtside. There are other teams who place people, and I've heard, some of it's real, some of it's not, where they will select and call folks and be like, hey, can you come sit to try to give us that?
Yeah.
With us, if it's not authentic, we don't want it. And that's a very big differentiator for us. But when people consistently see 2 Chainz there, as part of our G League team, he's part owner of our College Park Skyhawks team. That's genuine. And it's not us having to ask and beg. He's there because he wants to be. And those are the people that we want to highlight and amplify and do business with.
Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do is open up for questions. But I do want to say this, too. Pinky has a superpower. So I mentioned how, and if y'all can't figure it out, I use the power of my network, especially for opportunities like this. And so I mentioned in the last panel how Uber is a client. We had minority-owned restaurants that were facing very adverse circumstances in the sense of disparity during pandemic. Pinky came in. Well, one of the things that I saw Pinky do was that, and I tell her this because I'm a very big ideator. Now, one thing I know, I'm gonna have some ideas. I know how to problem solve. I know how to kind of take things from idea to execution. But it takes me a little bit of time. She can do it in real time. So I'm giving y'all that hint because some of y'all have a business idea. Now, we can't spend a lot of time on it. But I dare you to ask her something about your business idea and see what happens. We're going to do this question thing for as long as we can, and then we got to wrap. Okay, I see hands up. Okay, Chrissy? Okay. And then I see y'all over here. We got 2 over here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Chambers, an international student from Portland, Jamaica. Hey. I'm a junior at Boys University, Computer Science. And my question is for Miss Pinky Cole. How did you fund Slutty Vegan in the beginning? And what advice do you have for inspiring entrepreneurs who are seeking capital and more than likely loyal investors?
Okay, great question. So I funded it because I was a television producer, so I was making a lot of money early on when I was younger. So I was able to bootstrap my business at first, and then I eventually went on to gain investors. So what I will say to you and everybody else who is an entrepreneur looking for funding, if you're looking for funding, you got to get so laser focused in the business and build something so irresistible that people are going to be knocking on your door to try to give you money. If that's the biggest thing that I could share with you, that was something that I realized I never had to ask for money in the beginning of Slutty Vegan. I built something that's wildly popular, everybody wanted to be connected to, so I had investors literally lining up trying to invest in my business, and that was an alley-hoop for me because I put my heart and my soul in my business. And not everybody puts their heart and their soul in their business, so the proof is in the pudding. So you got to be able to put in the work so that you can get the investment. That's the first part. The second part is, what is your business?
Okay.
Okay, so you want to do something in tech. Okay. Do you have be blanket with me? I want to help you with the idea.
She said she don't want to share.
Okay, well, never mind. You don't want to share.
Oh, it's hardware based?
Okay, that ain't specific enough, but good luck. I'm claiming all blessings to your business, and I know it's gonna be great. And whatever it is that you do, try to find a way to tie it into Jamaica.
Most definitely, most
Yes.
definitely. All right,
Okay.
thank you,
It's
thank
the
you.
young lady over here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Smith. I am a graduating senior at the illustrious Spelman College. And thank you. And I humbly serve as the Vice President, Co-founder, and Chief Marketing Officer for Spelman's first and only Public Relations and Communications Club. Thank you. I appreciate it. My question is for you, Melissa Proctor. As a storyteller myself, I'm curious to know how you balance maintaining a consistent brand narrative while also allowing for creative storytelling that resonates with a diverse audience segment.
You know, it's a great question, and a lot of times during the season, we have to go with the storyline of basketball on one side. But as I mentioned earlier, most CMOs can control some of their product. If I'm building, food, I can control the ingredients. I don't control who's on the court, and I control what happens on the court. And so for us, so much of that other storytelling is what we create offside, like that podcast, like what we do on social, like what we do in our community, which is really, really important to us. And so we are always kind of dancing in between being respectful of what's happening on the court, but really putting our focus and effort and energy on what's happening outside. And utilizing and working with Atlanta and the city and all those stories is really, really important. Right now, we're looking at food stores within the arena. There are a number of things that we consistently have to pull from, but it's also about relevance. The one thing I'll say, last season, the in-season tournament, or NBA Cup, was new. Most people didn't know what it was, and we had a brief from our CEO that said, we want to make sure that fans know we need to cut through the clutter. We ended up creating an OnlyFans video with Harry the Hawk rolling around in a bed with no uniform
I remember
on.
that.
I got fired and rehired 20 times in the same day. Ended up on TMZ. And it was the most popular post around the NBA for the entire season. In that, there were so many people who were upset, people who didn't know what OnlyFans was, but from a next-gen Atlanta standpoint, we hit the nail on the head with our target. And so being intentional and speaking directly to our target audience and who we build our brand for is very different than who we sell tickets to.
Next question.
Good question.
Hello. All right. Awesome. Hi, my name is Fatima A. I'm the founder and CEO of the Women's Premier Basketball Association. I'm also a member of the Jamaican national team for basketball. Yeah. Right now, I'm in the process of creating the first G League, the development league for women. Obviously, we've seen in the last 2 years a huge rise in women's sports, not only at the basketball level, but women's sports in general. I would love to get your opinion on why you think it's a great idea to invest in women's sports right now. This is for everyone.
Yeah, I was like, it could be for you.
So, I'm actually interested in what you just said. So you're building a G League for women's basketball?
Yes, I am. So for players that have either been cut by the WNBA or players that have just recently graduated from university, I'm providing them with the space to come in, develop, get better, be ready for their next opportunity, as well as teach them how to become a professional and create longevity within their overseas or domestic careers here.
Okay, and then G League, when you're in the G League, you can go overseas.
Yeah, so you can either get called up and play, at one of these top
pro
leagues
team.
here in the States, or you can get picked up to play overseas during that season or the upcoming season after our season's finished.
Okay, so I think that's a great business, and I want to drop a couple of ideas on you. You're based here,
I'm based in the Bay Area, so I have 8 teams currently in my league.
so you have 8 teams in your league.
Yes.
So what my spirit just told me to tell you is, what's your name?
Fatima,
Fatima, what's the name of the league?
Women's Premier Basketball Association.
Women's Premier
WPBA for sure.
WPBA. So
Yeah.
WPBA is also an agency, right? So this is how you're gonna funnel. You got the people, you put them through all of the training, but you also have the agency that will funnel these people and connect them to places like China. Connect them so you don't have to get a third party to do it. Mm-hmm. Not only do you have the people, you also have the agency. So you make money by way of making sure that these people are ready to go to the league, and then also you get a percentage of representation when you connect them to different businesses overseas, but you'll be based in the Bay Area where you live, right? And you create this space where people have to, like, you are the Google of the G League. People want to come to you and they want to connect to you, and it's their dream of dreams to be able to go to this institution because you only reproduce the best. And on top of what you're going to do with that, you need to hire a videographer, right? And you're going to do a documentary about what happens after you lose the league, leave the league, quit, get fired. What does life look like for you? Because there's some mental health that's associated with people who leave the league for whatever reason. I was just with somebody who played for the MLB, right? And he walked away from a $43 million contract. We just had dinner. His name is D. Thompson. I think that was his last name. So he walked away from a $43 million deal. And you got to be mentally crazy in the head to do that. But we don't understand his reasoning. But imagine if you had a documentary that shows what life looks like after they leave the league and go into the G League. And you're just documenting what you're doing within the organization that you created. And at the end of that, you have the agency that represents these people, that positions them into all of these places. And then your social media, right? Your social media will highlight the stories of these people who are coming in again for a second chance. And then you're going to write the book. And the book is going to talk about how you come in and you are kind of like, you know how they got the Godfather? You're the second chancer. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? And people come to you because you've given people a second chance at life in their career because they love this art so much.
So let me say this, and I tell y'all, so to that point, she took your current business model and gave you an enterprise structure and ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so having been a former agent for players of the WNBA, Cheryl Swoops, and so what I would tell you is that women's sports is long overdue, this recognition. And so everything that we have fought for in the sense of pay equity and so much more, you're seeing move. It's still a big disparity gap, but the attention by way of awareness, by way of opportunities, through corporate partnerships, I used to do Cheryl's contracts overseas in Russia. And so from that standpoint, what we are trying to do now, and you see it in Unrivaled, is that you want our young ladies to be able really to stay home. Mm-hmm. They go overseas not because necessarily they want to, it's because they have to. And the monies that they can make overseas, they're not making here. What you want to do is look at in your development league and G League for women, what, to Melissa's point, becomes something by way of the product and the skills and the development, but what else? And Pinky just gave you a lot of what else and a value proposition for these women.
And the one other thing that I'll add to that, because your question initially, like, why is now a good time? And I would say distribution. Like, you saw the big deal that the NBA got, the W got a big piece of that, probably not big enough. But I think whichever you're doing, getting distribution and making sure there are people who can see your product is hugely important, even if you figure out how to do it streaming or digitally, because you want to get those eyeballs. And the sooner you're able to do it and the bigger it gets, the quicker you can monetize it.
And that's why I asked the question earlier to them around content, because the more content in your arsenal, the more by way of distribution opportunities. Okay, we got to go to another question.
You want another one?
Come on. Yes. You following me, not Bria. Okay, thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Austin Montero. I'm a student at Florida State University, finance student, marketing. I currently own and operate an Airbnb back in Panama, my home country, and I'm trying to see ways how to escalate the business because I have a lot of guests that are coming from Europe and they want to learn about the culture and nature of my country. How would you approach that? For all the panelists.
Where's your Airbnb?
Back in Panama Republic.
Oh, it's in Panama.
Yeah, Central America.
How
So
many?
you want more people over there
Yes.
because you're getting queries about that.
Exactly. I
You
want to
want
bring
more people from America to go over there?
from all the world. Yes.
Oh, from all around the world to go over there.
Exactly.
Does
Is
your
Airbnb.
Airbnb have a name?
Yes.
What's
it's
the name
called
of-
the Crystal House.
The who?
The Crystal House.
The Crystal House.
Yes.
And is it made of crystal?
Okay, so it's a family project. My sister is an architect. My mother is a fashion designer, and we got all together. We brought all of the wood from Colombia, and we built the house by ourselves. And it's right now top 5 Panama Airbnbs. So
Okay, all right, so I got it for you. This is what you're gonna do. Clap for that, y'all, because that's good, because I wanna go.
thank you.
Can I go? Okay. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you are going to go on, write this down, y'all, too. This is my secret that I'm about to give y'all. Go to Fiverr.com. You ever heard of Fiverr?
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna go to Fiverr, and then you're gonna scroll down and say people who can find people on Instagram, like distribution lists. You're gonna pay $15 for a list, and they're gonna ask you, like, who are you looking for? You are looking for influencers who love to travel, right? And you're gonna go, influencers that love to travel, they're gonna come back and give you a list of 500 influencers that love to travel, depending on where you want them. You want them in Florida, you want them in Atlanta, you want them in the Bay, where you want them, right? So they're gonna give you this list in 48 hours. And then what you're gonna do is you're going to go to Google Gmail, okay? You see what I did?
I see
You're gonna go to
that.
Gmail, and then you're gonna send a mass email to everybody. I just learned this too. You send a mass email to everybody, and you put it, when you put send, you can send an individual email, so you won't see like all of the email addresses. You're gonna go to ChatGPT. What's your name?
Augustine.
Who?
Augustine.
Okay,
Yes.
love that. All right, so you're gonna go to ChatGPT, and you're gonna say.
Or Gemini.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gemini. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, Gemini. Sorry.
We know your heart.
Yes, sorry.
yes, Gemini.
You're gonna go to Gemini.
Yeah.
And when you go to Gemini, you need to create a description for the Crystal House. The Crystal House is the state-of-the-art getaway for all of your wildest dreams. You come with a Michelin or 5-star chef. Then you come in, every sheet is woven with excellence by a fashion designer and blah, 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 blah. So Gemini is gonna create that for you. Partner with us today. Come see the Gemini. We're offering stays. Let's do business, right? So you're gonna put all the information, put it in an email, and then you're going, out of 500, you're gonna at least get 25 people that say, hey, my rate is pay for me to come out there and blah, 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 blah. So you're gonna get people who have high followers on TikTok to come out there and stay at your space for at least 48 hours. And in exchange of them staying at your space for free, they get to get a free vacation. They go on TikTok and do a review. I went into Crystal House and it was the best experience of my life. And make sure y'all go to the Crystal House, y'all, because this was the bomb. And I had a great time.
Yeah.
And right now they offering a deal. But the Crystal House was the best experience that I ever had when I went out the country. Make sure that you go. If you do that and you wash, rinse, and repeat, you're at least going to get 10 to 15% of the people going to say, hey, I want to come to the Crystal House, and you only paid $15 to $20 to do it. That's the first place to do it. And then your content game, you need to get a videographer that is so good that, I'm talking about like high resolution, like the water's gotta be crystal clear. I want the people who work for you in the Crystal House talking about their experience at the Crystal House, and then you get real people talking about their experience. That's the surest way to tap in with influencers to be able to take your brand to the next level.
I love that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right,
Anybody
this gentleman right here, he's been waiting. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say thank y'all very much. This is a very great panelist group right here. So my name is Keenan Moore. I just graduated recently from UNC Charlotte. And so I want to start my own business. And so the business I want to start is called Historically Cultured. And so what this business does is that I know a lot of HBCU students who make like amazing, great fashion brands for themselves. And like they give it out to like some of their friends and stuff like that. And so what I want to do is like allow them to have a bigger platform to like interact with like different students in different schools. Because what I noticed is that like a student like North Carolina A&T, they'll have like their great own fashion brand, but they're only selling to students that are at A&T or in the local area. But I feel like if I make a platform or like a social media platform or like a marketplace for them, they'll be able to like sell it to like people at like Spelman, people at Howard, people at FAMU and like things like that. And so that's something that I'm trying to start right now. I haven't got like anything really big yet going in the motions of that, but that's something I'm trying to start right now. And I'm just trying to figure out like what will be some great more steps for me. But if you do talk, can you talk a little bit slower or we talk afterwards? Because I'm a really slow typer.
Okay, I get excited. I get excited. So the first thing that popped into my mind, what you just said, is you should try to utilize the real estate. You just graduated? Okay, so what I thought about when you were talking is you should utilize the real estate from the bookstores on campus, right? So the bookstores on campus sell bookstore stuff. They sell campus stuff. But if you say, hey, can I requisition 500 square feet of this bookstore, depending on what the size is. And then what's the name of the brand? Historically Cultured. So similar to what Village Market is, right? So you go to Pond City Market, Village Market has this curated space with all of these different designers, people who have different brands, and they sell their product, and she obviously gets a percentage of it, but she gives them the visibility to be able to sell their product. You should do that same exact thing. You create chapters at different schools. So in those chapters, you have a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and anybody that's in that group is a fashion designer, somebody that makes their clothes. And as a result of them being in the group, they get the ability to put their clothes in that 500 square foot space in the bookstore that already exists. Everybody also already goes to the bookstore. They come to the bookstore, they see it branded with your branding and logo, and it's a storytelling piece. Every single piece here, the tag, I see the tag. Every piece was made by a college student for college students. So maybe that's your tagline, made by college students for college students. And you utilize that space, and now you go from college to college, and you meet with all of the schools, because now every single school got a chapter. And then once a year, you do this big annual conference where you bring all of these people who are or were in college, who are brand designers, and you have a big conference where there's a big marketplace and people can buy products off the floor. And it's almost like what Delta is, right? So like we get excited, we have national conventions and everybody get excited to go to these national conventions. But if you have these people at these different chapters and they get to go to this big conference once a year, now everybody from different schools can display their stuff. So imagine you got Clark Atlanta, like there's a Clark Atlanta row. And it's everybody to go to Clark Atlanta. Somebody make pants, somebody make shirts, somebody make shoes. And then you got Howard over here. Howard got hats, Howard got all of these things. So now people will get excited to represent their school, and it'll be open for everybody. So imagine it's a big homecoming, but for the marketplace. And you could do something like that, but start at the college level and get people to do chapters, and then the chapters come together. You can have coalitions, you can have meetups, all of those good things, but I would say utilize the bookstores that are already existing to sell those products in stores. Was that slow enough for you? Because I talk fast. Okay.
All right, so, okay, this is the last, I saw you. It's the last one, and then we do need to, y'all, come on. All right, but they got to be fast, y'all, really fast. I'll hit these two, and then we're done, because I got to keep Larry, because we have, one of the other things is that, you know, they've brought people here to talk to you all, and so we hope that you will take advantage of that also. But we got to wrap, because, here's the other thing, and I told y'all, God is so good, and I'm just so thankful that people show up for me, because tonight, Pinky has a vision board party. But she made an exception to be here with you all today, with us today. And she does have a hard stop, and we probably are past it. So let's be respectful so that she can get out of here. But did I tell y'all she has a superpower? Okay, all right, next.
Thank you for everything that you've been stating. My name is Robert Aline. I've been working with my family, who's originally from Trinidad. I'm first generation here in the States, and we do exposure basketball camps in Trinidad. And with that, we get students in middle school, high school age. We do these camps to try to get them opportunities in the U.S. because that was something that benefited my brother and myself. And so with that being the case, we've been going back year after year out of our own pockets, setting up these camps, connecting with people in the areas that my father had grown up, and just trying to build on that going forward. And just with that being the case, some of the successes that we've had is this getting some of the students that's graduated already to come back with us to be able to speak to the students and engage them, and just looking to see how we could grow it and get more of the people and officials down in Trinidad to buy into it and building it so that we could create a bigger landscape for it to get more students here into the States.
This don't have nothing to do with what you just said, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. So you know how in the States they got the NBA? Why don't you create the IBA, the International Basketball Association, where maybe it's like for Caribbean, because like Jamaica don't have like a basketball team that travels, and I don't know if Trinidad has that, do they?
They have a national team.
They have a national team?
Yes.
But is there a national team that like plays against the U.S.? I don't know much about basketball.
Yes.
That plays against, like, how does that work, Melissa, with like the NBA?
The NBA doesn't have that. They'll have like the BAL in Africa specifically, but not the Caribbean. But national teams will play like on national stages. So whether
I don't know what that could do, but like I've never seen, and my family's from Jamaica, and I'm like, damn, that would be dope. Maybe you live in Trinidad?
Live here in the States, live in New York City.
Oh, you live in New York City, and the camp that you do...
We do the exposure camps in Trinidad.
You do the exposure camps in Trinidad.
Yes.
Do they have something like, what is it where people can sign basketball players here? NHL. What is
The
that?
NIL.
The NIL.
That's like college.
That's in college, but your people are in high school?
Middle school, high school, yes.
Middle school, high school. Okay, so you're trying to figure out a way to get more exposure in Trinidad?
Yes, but more so getting more of the buy-in and building the culture out there because basketball is growing down there, but it's more soccer, track, but building the sport of basketball down there. They definitely love it. They love what they see on TV, especially seeing my height and with my brother's height, and when we bring other people down, they love it. And it's a growing area, but just understanding building the infrastructure out to grow it, the landscape down there.
And it's middle school and high school?
Yes.
Okay, so what I was thinking is maybe Trinidad is the market that you really capitalize off, and the same thing that I just said, but build the franchise in Trinidad. So now Trinidad becomes this place where you have the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, and it's big, like you can really market a really big tournament that happens for a season in Trinidad, and people from around the world come. And what you could do is you can lean into the agencies and the agents that live in the States and invite them to come over to these seasons, to this league, to see the best players that would then get invited to the States to go to school at, like, what is it called, the junior league, the G League, not the G League, but see,
Junior NBA.
So are you wanting like AAU age kids to come over? Like, I'm just trying to track. Is it that you want?
So these are kids, with respect, trying to get them into colleges up here in
okay,
the
trying to
States.
get them to
Oh,
colleges
you want
up
them?
here.
I'm just trying to make sure we understand what the task is. You want those kids to come to school here?
Yes, a lot of them are looking for opportunities in the States.
Okay, so
Got it. Okay, so what let me rephrase what I'm saying to you. So what I would advise you do is, with everything that's happening with DEI and all of that stuff, now is a really good opportunity to tap in with the colleges and say, hey, you all should create a division, especially HBCUs too. I know everybody wants to go to the D leagues too, right? D1 schools. But maybe you create something where you meet with the colleges and say, hey, I have this program where I have these amazing players that we're producing in Trinidad and they want to be able to come to the States. Can we do a partnership, right? And within that partnership, we can funnel these people. So, in school, they need like 20% of this kind of person, 20% of this kind of person. Like, there is an instance where you have to have a certain kind of person to come to the schools, especially like HBCUs. But for the basketball schools, maybe you reach out to the schools and say, hey, let's create a program that will funnel these kids when they're playing basketball to the schools, because when they graduate, they need somewhere to go to. And if I can be your partner, your overseas partner, then I can help bring these people to the States. And I don't know if they do that already, but that's a really, really good way to start. You're more in basketball than me, so I feel like you probably could lend more to like this whole basketball
and I'm gonna
conversation.
actually have to keep it moving, only because in the interest of time, you really shouldn't get one, but I'm gonna give it to you, but you gotta be brief.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Come on. Real quickly.
I'll be very brief. I would like for each one of the ladies here to give us 3 to 5 elements of your journey and start very early in your life that got you to the location you are today.
3 to 5 elements of my journey.
Let me do it this way. Let me do it, because I know we kind of talked a little bit about how do so that we can accommodate and answer somewhat, but in an abbreviated form. Give them 3 words or phrases in 3 words or less. Lord. No, because listen, because I could think of 3 words that have gotten me to where I am today. I just tried to expand it so that if you didn't want to do one word, you could. Okay, so 3 words or phrases that has gotten you from point A to where we are today.
So I'll start first. No, don't hurt. No, don't hurt. Because no for me means new opportunities. And that has got me to where I am today, simply put. Yes.
Good one.
Mine is make dope shit. It's on my wall. It's what the team lives by. But in every job that I've ever had, make dope shit is what I had to do. And it was letting my work speak for itself. But no matter what it is or what I'm doing, if I'm proud and excited about whatever I'm creating, I know it's gonna hit.
Perfect way to end it. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.